Good morning, and thank you to Lynn for leading the service today, and today for doing the reading about one of the wonderful I am sayings of Jesus. What is a shepherd? We may well have an image in our minds of a person in a tunic, possibly with a leather belt of some description, a leather waistcoat, sandals, possibly a headscarf, and a crook in their hand. There may be stone walls nearby, possibly with a sheep around their shoulders, and indeed we will see many similar images in books and paintings. If I am correct, we will see the shepherd as someone who looks after the sheep and cares for their safety and well-being. However, if you are thinking of a modern-day shepherd or shepherdess, in jeans, strong boots, a jacket, a hat of some description, and possibly a three-wheeled motorbike and electric fences may be order of the day. This is great contrast to the shepherds of Lesotho in South Africa, one of the poorest places in the world, where 1 in 4 people contract AIDS, and boys who are often orphans become shepherds. The nights are very cold, and they have to protect the sheep against harm from other competitive shepherds. Their payment comes at the end of the year in terms of a couple of sheep. The mind boggles at how they manage to live on a daily basis. This is a very different picture from the one portrayed in the book of John. Shepherds had and do still have hard lives. Today, more respect is given to those who have roles in caring for animals and our nature. But in the Old Testament, to be a shepherd was a role that was normally handed down from son to son, and the youngest ended up looking after the sheep. Remember the story of David, son of Jesse, who was out in the field minding sheep. Which leads me to talk about sheep. If we look at BBC Earth's website, we find that common perception of sheep is that they are stupid, defenceless and harmless creatures that mope about on hillsides, doing not very much. They are good for 2 things, being eaten and producing wool. I would say that is a fairly common view. Sadly, cuddly though they might be, particularly on an Easter card, and endearing when they are lambs, sheep on the whole get a lot of bad press. Being compared to a sheep is to be likened to someone who is timid, weak, and easily swayed. Quotes I have found on the internet: a lion never loses sleep over the opinions of a sheep. Or, it's better to be a lion for 1 day than a sheep all your life. The sheep doesn't appear to come out as a hero, or conqueror, or someone who achieved. But BBC Earth also says sheep are actually surprisingly intelligent with impressive memory cognition skills. They build friendships, stick up for one another in fights, and feel sad when their friends are sent to slaughter. Maybe there is hope. In the Old Testament time, sheep were a sign of wealth, something worth having. Remember Abraham and his flock of sheep? They were used for sacrifices, for food, and for clothing. Their value was worth putting your life on the line for if a wolf or another animal came to attack. In the text, Jesus introduces himself to us, saying, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep as the Father knows me. It's a rather uncomfortable feeling that God knows us so well and knows us inside out, probably better than we know ourselves. But at the same time, comforting that we can be completely ourselves and not worry about how we are perceived, because He knows us. When we think about the role of the shepherd and how he cares about his sheep, she will search out the best grass. The shepherd guides the sheep forward, working out the best way to go to the best pasture. Interestingly enough, they usually first eat where the grain has been collected, close to where the shepherd lives. The remnants are then picked up by those who have no food, and then the sheep are allowed in to eat anything else that is left. The shepherd also leads sheep to fresh water. Apparently, and I didn't know this, but sheep are frightened of running water and prefer puddles, which often contain dirty water. It therefore makes sense in Psalm 23 when we are led to still waters. A shepherd keeps his eye on his sheep and goes out of his way to bring that stray one back into the fold, often by using a pebble and a sling, which he will aim at the side of the sheep, not to hit them, mind, but to startle them into moving a different way. A shepherd cares about the physical needs of the sheep. They will trim hooves, they will care for the sheep that are ill, they use oil to prevent sheep from scab disease and nose flies, preventing more serious illnesses occurring and also an early death. The shepherd knows the best way to help the sheep, but in order to work with the sheep, they need to trust him, and sheep do not trust just anyone. Sheep usually recognize their shepherd's voice and will flock towards him or her. Jesus knows that there is no getting away from it. But do we know him? And do we trust him? I am told that hearing people are able to identify the speaker by listening to a voice. Well, interestingly enough, sometimes it's possible to identify the relationship between two people using a specific style of signing. So, as the sheep recognize their shepherd's voice, do we truly recognize Jesus when he speaks? Do we trust that voice? It's worth mentioning here the difference between the hired hand and the shepherd. It is clear from the text that his concern for the sheep in his care is nothing like the shepherd's. The hired hand says, I'm here to do a job, but I'm not going to risk my life for it. If a wolf comes, I'm off. I have a vision of someone busy on their phone, not looking around at the sheep, whiling away the time until it's time to go home. The commitment to the job and the sheep is seriously lacking. The hired hand clearly does not know the sheep or even care about them. A sheep that has got to know his shepherd's voice over time will not trust a stranger's voice. And I suggest that the hired hand will have a problem getting them back if they run away. As much as we need faith in God, we also need to learn to recognise his voice by spending time with him in prayer and through reading the Bible. We also learn to recognise what God is not and whether they are trustworthy. As Jesus leads us forward, we need faith in him. But If a shepherd can do all that he does for his sheep, how much more will Jesus care for us? Jesus knows and he cares not just about our physical needs, but also our spiritual needs. And he knows exactly what we need at any given time. How do we know that Jesus cares about us spiritually? This is reflected in the image of the shepherd and his death on the cross. Whatever your view of sheep, or even mankind, Jesus considers us worthwhile the sacrifice. He is prepared to carry our burdens, lead us to green pastures and quiet waters. But most of all, Jesus was prepared to die on the cross for us. We are valuable to him, and he considers the sacrifice worthwhile doing. The moral of this is, whatever the world says about the sheep, be like a sheep. Follow Jesus. Stay close to him. Learn to recognize his voice and trust him. Amen.